Okay, let's dive into this. We hear about big numbers in tech all the time.
All the time.
A billion here, a billion there, and after a while, you just you get numb to it. It becomes background noise.
Exactly.
But I came across one statistic in our research for this deep dive that, I'm not kidding, it made me stop, put my coffee down, and I had to read it 3 times.
Yeah.
Just to make sure I wasn't, seeing things.
I think I know the exact number you're talking about. It's the infrastructure spend, isn't it?
It is the infrastructure spend.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the projections for 2026.
Yeah.
And if you take just the big four so, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, and Alphabet, they are on track to spend $670 billion
Billion with a B.
on AI infrastructure. This year, $670 billion.
It is a staggering amount of capital. And I think we need to actually pause there for a second because humans we're notoriously bad at visualizing billions.
It's just a number on a page.
Yeah, it is. Until you compare it to something real. So let's try to put that into perspective for a minute. That sum is actually more than the entire cost of the Apollo space program.
Wait. The moon landing?
The whole thing, from the first sketches all the way to Neil Armstrong taking that giant leap. If you adjust the Apollo program for inflation, we are spending more on servers and ships and cooling systems in one single year than the entire United States spent to put a human on the moon.
That kind of sets the stage perfectly for what we're talking about today.
It really does.
Because when you're spending moon landing money, you're not just, messing around with cool chatbots anymore.
Exactly. No, this is serious.
So the theme for this deep dive isn't just more AI, it's a shift in reality. It really feels like February 2026 is the moment the rubber finally meets the road. We are moving from the hype phase.
Right. The cool demos, the funny poems.
The image generators, yeah. All of that.
Right.
And we're moving into something I'd call, aggressive pragmatism.
That is the perfect phrase for it. We're not looking at toys anymore. We are looking at the foundation of the next economy. And as we went through all the sources this week, 3 massive pillars just stood out.
Okay.
First, there's that historic scale, the financial investment we just mentioned. And just you wait till we compare it to the US GDP, because that's where it gets really wild.
Oh, I can't wait for the GDP comparison. They are going to blow people's minds.
They really are. Second, the tech itself it's fundamentally changing. We're not just chatting with bots anymore. We're managing what the industry is now calling agent teams.
Agent teams, right.
And third, and this is the part that, it always gets ignored until it's too late, we're hitting real-world friction. Physics, power grids, politics, they're all starting to push back.
Okay, so let's start with the money. We mentioned the moon landing, but the sources we have actually compare this $670 billion to some other, huge events in American history.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see it as a percentage of the economy, it tells a very specific story.
It really does. So if we look at the data, that $670 billion spend, it represents about 2.1% of the entire U.S. GDP.
2.1%.
Now, historically, for a specific sector to spend that much on capital expenditure, that's rare air. Usually that's reserved for governments fighting wars or, building nations.
Right.
For comparison, look at the Louisiana Purchase, 1803.
Okay.
That purchase literally doubled the physical size of the United States. It opened up the entire West. And that cost about 3.0% of the GDP at the time.
So you're telling me 4 companies are spending almost as much on computer chips as the U.S. government spent to buy half the continent?
Correct. But here's an even better comparison, and I think this is the one that really explains the why behind all this spending.
Okay.
The U.S. railroad expansion. Between 1850 and 1859. That was the infrastructure that defined the industrial age, right?
Absolutely.
That cost about 2.0% of GDP annually.
Okay, so that tracks perfectly. We're at 2.1% now. They're laying down the digital tracks.
Right. They are literally building the rails. But here's the statistic that just completely floored me. Think about the interstate highway system. That massive project that connected the entire country, changed commerce, suburbs, everything, from 1955 to 1970.
The biggest public works project in history, I thought.
You'd think so, right? But the interstate highway system only cost about 0.4% of GDP annually.
Wait, hang on. The highway system was only 0.4%.
0.4.
So these tech companies are spending 5 times more relative to the economy than we spent building the highways.
That is the scale we're dealing with, and it explains why they're doing it. This isn't just a software update. This isn't a better version of Windows.
No.
This is infrastructure building on a like a civilizational scale. They are laying down the digital equivalent of the railroads and the highways for the next century. They truly believe that whoever owns the compute owns the future economy.
It's an arms race. But instead of building nuclear silos, they're building data centers. But this is where it gets, I don't know, really interesting. Or maybe terrifying, depending on your stock portfolio. The revenue isn't quite there yet, is it? We're seeing these massive, massive bills.
Yeah.
But is the cash register ringing?
Not nearly loud enough. And that's the sobering reality that one of the analyses we read mentioned. For example, OpenAI is projecting, huge revenues for a private company, around $13 billion.
Right.
Anthropic is projecting somewhere between $2 and $4 billion. Now, in a vacuum, those are incredible numbers for companies that are only a few years old.
Oh, for sure. Any startup would kill for billions in revenue.
And you have to compare it to the spend. If you're spending hundreds of billions on infrastructure, earning $13 billion back is wild.
It's a massive gap.
So it's just a high-stakes poker game. They're betting the house, literally betting the GDP of a small country, that eventually the revenue is going to catch up. It is the single biggest CapEx bet in business history. And that pressure, that need to generate revenue and close that gap, that's exactly what's driving the second pillar we need to talk about, the shift to agentic AI.
Right, agentic AI.
Yeah.
I feel like if you walked into a coffee shop in San Francisco right now, that's the only phrase you'd hear.
Probably.
But for everyone listening who might be rolling their eyes at another AI buzzword, let's just break this down. How is agentic AI different from the ChatGPT we were all using in 2024 or 2025?
The simplest way to frame it is, it's a shift from talking to doing.
Okay.
In 2024 and 2025, the main use case was a chatbot. You ask a question, it gives an answer. It's passive, it waits for you.
It's a really, really smart encyclopedia.
Exactly, but 2026 is about the employee model. You don't just ask it a question, you give the AI a goal, you say, achieve this outcome, and it goes off and performs a series of tasks, maybe over hours or even days, to get it done.
So instead of me asking, how do I write this code, I'm now saying, here's the code, go rewrite it, test it, and just, tell me when you're done.
Yes, and we're seeing this shift happen in the new tools that just dropped this month.
Right.
Let's talk about OpenAI's new platform, Frontier.
Right.
I mean, the descriptions of this thing in the source material, they sound less like a coding tool and more like HR software.
I thought the exact same thing. It looks like a management dashboard.
It's a perfect analogy. OpenAI Frontier is basically an interface for big companies to manage their AI agents. It lets them onboard literally hire them, set permissions for what data they can access, and even set up feedback loops. It treats the bot like a new hire.
Wow.
You don't just turn it on, you have to manage it.
So you're assigning permissions to a piece of code the same way you'd give a key card to a new employee. That is wild.
And then on the other side of the fence, you have Anthropic. They just released Claude Opus 4.6. What's the big headline there?
Agent teams. That's what stood out to me.
Right. So they're not just giving you a smarter chatbot. They're giving you a system where you can split a project into different parts. They figured out that one giant AI trying to do everything, it just gets confused.
Right, makes mistakes.
So they split the roles. One agent might write the code, a completely separate agent with a different set of instructions reviews that code for errors, and a third agent coordinates the whole deployment.
It's literally a digital assembly line.
It is.
Right.
And they're calling these long horizon tasks. So instead of an interaction taking seconds, Opus 4.6 is built to handle jobs that take hours. It's designed to work while you sleep.
And we can't forget Moonshot AI. We saw some notes on their new model, Kimi K2.5. It sounds like they're taking a slightly different path with something called agent swarms.
Yeah, Moonshot is interesting, especially because it's open source, which a lot of developers like.
More control.
Exactly. But their Kimi K2.5 model introduces this specific thinking mode. Before it takes an action like deleting a file or sending an email, it actually pauses to plan out the steps.
So it measures twice, cuts once.
That's it. And that is so crucial for things like visual coding or complex analysis because it just drastically reduces errors. An agent that just reacts instantly is going to break things. Moonshot's bet is that a slower, more thoughtful agent is actually faster in the long run.
Okay, so we've got agent teams, agent swarms, and HR platforms to manage it all. But there was one other piece of tech mentioned in the sources that feels like the glue holding it all together, the MCP.
Ah, yes. The Model Context Protocol, or MCP.
Sounds very technical.
It is, but the concept is actually pretty simple. I've heard it described as the USB-C for AI, and I think that's just brilliant.
Because before this, trying to connect an AI to your actual work tools was a total
It
nightmare.
was a disaster. I mean, if you wanted your AI to read your Google Calendar or access your company database, you had to write all this custom code. It was so fragile. If Google changed one line of code in their API, your whole thing just broke.
A spaghetti code nightmare.
Total nightmare. And MCP basically fixes that. It's a standard. It lets these agents plug directly into your databases, your Slack, your Google Drive, whatever, using a universal port. It's the missing link that lets the brain of the AI actually move the hands of your software.
Okay, so that's the high-level tech. We've got the money, we've got the agents, we've got the connections.
Yeah.
But let's bring this down to earth for a minute. I want to talk about how a listener can actually use this concept right now.
Yes.
Because we found this great prompt of the week in the source material that basically lets you run a multi-agent team inside a single chat window. No expensive enterprise software needed.
This is one of my favorite takeaways from this whole stack. It's called the Multi-Agent Research Squad.
I love that name. Sounds like a superhero team. So how does it work?
So instead of just asking a model like Claude or ChatGPT a question and getting, a generic answer, you prompt it to adopt 4 distinct personas. You explicitly tell it you are a research squad composed of 4 members.
Okay, and who are the members of the squad?
First, you have the analyst. You tell the AI that in this role, its only job is data, benchmarks, concrete evidence. No fluff, no opinions, just the facts.
Got it. The foundation. Who's next?
Second, you have the strategist. This persona focuses on the implications, the trade-offs, the big picture. They take the data from the analyst and ask, so what does this actually mean?
Okay, 2 more.
This next one is the most important one, the one most people forget, the skeptic.
The skeptic.
You explicitly tell the AI to play the role of someone who is looking for flaws, for overconfidence, for missing perspectives in what the other agents are saying.
Oh, I love that. You're forcing the AI to argue with itself.
You are, and it is crucial for reducing hallucinations or just, lazy answers. The skeptic keeps the others honest.
And the last one.
And finally, you have the synthesizer. Their job is to take all the output from the analyst, the strategist, and the skeptic and merge it all into one coherent conclusion.
So you're basically running a mini corporate meeting inside a single chat window.
That's exactly it. And the sources highlight that this is how high-functioning human teams actually work. It forces a diversity of viewpoints before you get to an answer. So if you're prepping for a big decision like, researching a stock or trying to learn a complex topic, this squad approach is just infinitely better than asking for a simple summary.
I'm definitely trying that out. I'm going to unleash the skeptic on my next project. But shifting gears a bit, sometimes we think this AI stuff is just happening in these Silicon Valley bubbles.
Right.
But the news coming out of February 2026 shows that, boring companies, and I say that with affection, are going all in.
The industry adoption it's really widespread. We're not just talking about tech startups. Look at Barclays, a huge historic bank.
Yeah.
They are betting heavily on AI to cut costs and boost returns. They're not just dabbling, they are deploying.
And PepsiCo, that one really caught my eye.
PepsiCo is fascinating. They're using AI to rethink factory designs. This taps into that simulation aspect we kind of hinted at earlier. They're simulating production lines digitally to optimize efficiency before they even bolt a single machine to the floor.
Wow.
They can run 1 million versions of the factory in the cloud just to find the one that works best.
Think of all the money that saves on concrete and steel.
Exactly. And then you have FedEx. They're testing how far AI can go in tracking and returns. I mean, logistics is a perfect playground for these agents.
And traveler's insurance. This one felt really significant because of the labor implication.
It is significant. Travelers reported that their AI use is surging while at the same time, call center roles are reducing.
Right.
Now, you have to be careful not to draw a straight line without all the data, but that's the efficiency versus labor tension playing out in real time.
More claims handled with fewer people on the phones.
And even the military is getting involved. We saw a headline about Red Hat and the UK Ministry of Defense.
Yeah, deploying AI to the tactical edge. What does tactical edge even mean?
It means getting AI capabilities out into the field, on devices that might be in a Jeep or a backpack, not just sitting in a comfy headquarters server room. It just shows that the reliability is getting to a point where mission-critical sectors are comfortable using it where it matters most.
So the money is huge. Moon landing huge. The tools are getting smarter agents, not bots. And the companies, from soda to soldiers, are adopting it. But, and there's always a but in our deep dives,
Always.
we have to talk about pillar 3, the friction. Because you can't spend $670 billion on digital infrastructure without hitting some very physical limits.
This is where physics and the law enter the chat.
Right.
All of this growth requires massive, massive computation, and computation requires energy.
We saw a huge funding round for a company called Runway, raised $315 million at a $5.3 billion valuation. And they're building something called world models. How is that different from a regular AI model, and why does it eat so much power?
It's a great question. So a language model, like the one that writes your emails, it just predicts the next word. It deals with text. A world model, like what Runway is building, tries to understand physics, environments, how objects actually move in space.
So this is more like a video game engine.
In a way, yeah, but one that learns from reality. It tries to simulate how water splashes, how light reflects, how a car turns a corner. That is just computationally. It's incredibly heavy. It is so much harder to simulate a falling glass of water than it is to just describe it in text.
And that computational weight translates directly to electricity demand.
Directly.
So the demand for power is just, it's skyrocketing.
Mm.
And that brings us to New York. There is a battle brewing there that feels like a preview of what's going to happen everywhere else.
It really does. New York is looking at 2 bills right now that could slam the brakes on the AI industry. The first is a moratorium, a potential 3-year pause on permits for new data centers.
3 years. In AI time, that's like a century. If you pause for 3 years, you're basically out of the race. So why are they doing this?
The bill cites that requests for power load from data centers tripled in just 1 year.
Tripled.
They're worried about the electric grid collapsing and, residential bills going through the roof. National Grid New York basically said they expect 10 gigawatts of new demand to be added in the next 5 years.
10 gigawatts.
Yeah.
That's massive.
It's enormous. The grid just wasn't built for that kind of load. So you have this very real conflict. Residents don't want their bills to double, so a tech company can train a world model.
It's the irony of the century. We have the money to build the AI, but we might not have the electricity to actually turn it on.
And then there's the second bill, the Fair News Act. This one targets the content side. It would require labeling any news that is substantially composed by AI. But more importantly, it mandates human editorial control.
So no fully autonomous AI newsrooms allowed in New York.
Correct. If you have an agent that scrapes the web, writes a story, and publishes it without a human ever checking it, that would be illegal under this act. It's a push for transparency.
So you have this huge tension. On one hand, big tech is spending moon landing money to build the future. On the other, local governments are saying, whoa, wait a minute, you're using all our power and we don't trust what your bots are writing.
It's a collision course. You've got the irresistible force of capital expenditure meeting the immovable object of utility, infrastructure, and regulation.
And that's what makes 2026 the year of pragmatism. The hype is over. The party's over. Now they have to figure out how to actually build all this stuff without breaking the power grid or getting shut down by regulators.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for us, for the person listening on their commute right now?
It means the magic is fading and the work is beginning. For you, the listener, it's no longer about being impressed that a computer can write a poem. It's about understanding how to manage an agent team to do your research. It's about understanding that your bank and your shipping company are using this tech to change how they operate.
And it's about watching that friction, that push and pull between digital growth and physical limits.
Precisely. And I'll leave you with this final thought. We talked about OpenAI Frontier, right? This idea of managing agents, like employees.
Right, the HR dashboard for bots.
So think about the implications of that. If companies are now using the same software to manage software agents that they use to manage humans, at what point does the organizational chart become indistinguishable?
That's a little unsettling.
I mean, if you're a manager in 2027, are you managing people? Or are you just the admin for a fleet of agents? And are you ready for the difference in the skill set that requires? Because managing a human requires empathy. Managing an agent requires logic and very precise prompting.
Man, that is something to chew on. Managing a team of bots that never sleeps, never complains, but might hallucinate a fake legal precedent if you don't watch them like a hawk.
A whole new world.
A whole new world of management headaches. Well, on that slightly terrifying but fascinating note, we're going to wrap it up. The $670 billion bet is on the table, and we're all watching the wheel spin.
Thanks for diving in with us. Stay curious, keep learning, and maybe go build your own skeptic agent. to double-check your work today. We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.